Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? What's going on? Welcome to the third episode of Merchants of Novigrad, a bi-weekly podcast where we discuss everything Gwent. Today with me is my trusty co-host, Baby Joseph, commonly known as BJ. And as you guys probably have figured out, we have not one, but two guests this week. Straight from the set of the newest Marvel movie called Iron Justice. The commonly loved and widely known. The iconic Gwent Challenger duo, Flake and McBeard. How are you doing, guys?
Hey.
Iconic is a little bit more than at least I deserve. Iconic is more of a McBeard thing. I'm more of a sideshow. I'm more of an add-on. I'm more of like I'm the fries to his Big Mac kind of thing.
I think iconic is nice. I think I would go for recognizable.
Yes,
within the community. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, we'll take that. That seems about right. You don't need to sell us up like that. You don't need to upsell us. But we both appreciate those kind words.
I always do that.
Don't speak for me, Flake. I don't appreciate that.
Thanks, McBeard. All that effort for nothing.
I mean, we're good. I'm good.
But anyway, guys, a few words to our viewers, guys. If you're watching and if you have any questions, my dear friend BJ has been charged with the task of collecting them, and we're gonna answer the more interesting ones as we go. Also, if you want to stay in touch off stream, you can follow us on Twitter at Novigrad Podcast. And if YouTube is the platform where you would rather watch the show, it's going to be uploaded on my channel a couple of hours after we are done here on Twitch. So you can just type !YouTube and check out the channel. So yeah, guys, the first segment of the podcast, which is called What Have You Been Up To? So guys, what have you been up to? How is Gwent treating you? How is life treating you? And let's start with our guests. Flake, McBeard, how are things?
I'll let McBeard. I know McBeard has had his wrestling match with the internet company. I think you should open with that, my man.
Yeah, I mean it's not an exciting topic, so I'll keep it brief. But my ISP has kept me from doing lots of things over the last week, such as my own podcast, streams when I wanted to do them, etc. So it's just been it's giving me issues. So it's been making actually really enjoying the expansion difficult because I've been frustrated with technical issues, and it's hard to have fun at work when work isn't going well. You know what I mean? Like Gwent is fine. Gwent is fine. Like I can't wait to talk about it. I've been playing a fair amount. It's just been difficult with the old upload situation. Any stream based stuff has been really bad, but this call's holding because I'm not doing anything else with this. So that's great. But otherwise, Gwent's been good too. I've been playing a fair amount of games. I've played a lot of Squirtle and Monsters so far. And I'm sure we're going to talk all about the new expansion later. But otherwise, it's going well. And this morning has been going well as well. Good morning, NA.
Yeah, good morning, definitely. Let's see. The most exciting and trying thing that I've done in the past little while was actually waking up at 6 a.m. That is something that I'm not used to, but I did it because I love you guys. Well, I have to put the effort in. I mean, you guys put in a great effort to make the show as great as it is. So I have to at least show up on time. That is the least I can do. What have I been up to in the little bit? I mean, the thing about it is that, so essentially once leading up to Challenger, in the week leading up to Challenger, I jammed in at least about 200 to 250 games that went prior to Challenger in the days leading up to it. So to say I was sort of gassed on just completely exhausted on Gwent through that week up and up to Challenger, it's a little bit of an understatement. But I don't want to say I've been sort of taking a little bit of a Gwent vacation up till a little while, but I've been spending a lot of time working on other projects and watching a lot of Gwent streams. When I'm not actively streaming, I'm essentially watching people play the new expansion, and I have my time. I've explored it offline, but in terms of streaming the game, I have not streamed the game, but I have played it sort of outside of the public eye, and that's about it. I mean, I just haven't really had the fire to sort of jump in and stream Gwent. I've left that to the professionals, essentially. There's a lot of great people out there who are doing some really fantastic things with the new cards, and I'm completely content by sort of handing the creative reins over to those existing superstars and sort of letting myself just, wither in the shadows and watch them excel.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were not talking about me, but just sitting here and hearing the word superstar, it kind of pumps up my ego a little bit.
Oh, well, you're one of them. I mean, part of the entire creative process is doing podcasts and such like this. So you are within those ranks, my friend.
Anyway, BJ, what have you been up to other than, I guess, playing Gwent? Because I haven't seen you stream in a while. I have no idea what's going on there.
I streamed on Monday, and I did a co-op stream on Tuesday, I think, and on Thursday. Like, I did a card review stream with Villa and Gunhawks on Tuesday, and Wednesday I took a break because of the new expansion. I wanted to just spend my time alone playing the cards, creating decks. And then Thursday I did a co-op stream with Gunhawks. And that's pretty much it. I have not streamed on my own since the new expansion. Just trying new decks out, helping Villa with his prepping for the tournament that he's playing today, because he has a chance to go to Italy. So I really wanted to help him and, with practicing. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. But I'm planning to stream next week or maybe tomorrow. So yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things that our viewers are wondering about. Where is Villa? Because normally there's two co-hosts, and that's you and Villa, but Villa is prepping for a tournament. I think he starts playing in about 50 minutes, or he's playing already. He said something like 1 or 2 p.m., right? So yeah, so once again, hashtag Villa lost Villa. He is just prepping for the tournament, or already playing the tournament. But yeah, what have I been up to? I've been playing a little bit of Gwent, and as you guys know, I only play Novigrad, so that was the first thing of order. Just dive into the new cards, see what they're all about, and play a little bit of proactive Novigrad. We're gonna talk about it more, when we get to the expansion. Other than that, yeah, I'm just trying to work on and improve the podcast. We are actually working on a couple of episodes ahead. Like I've been talking to a couple of people, a couple of potential guests. So it takes definitely more time than I initially anticipated. When I first started doing this, I was like, yeah, just talk to a couple of people, like a couple of days before the actual episode, and everything's done. But it takes more time because people have their own schedules. They live an ocean away, so things are a little bit more complicated than I initially thought. But I love doing this, and yeah, I have some big plans for Gwent, like just writing articles right now, and we talked about it a little bit on Discord, BJ. The rework for Novigrad that I have in mind. I think that could be something something that I could potentially release as well, like an idea for an expansion maybe. But yeah, we're gonna talk about it when we get to the expansion topic, which is about now, because I think everyone is just eager to talk about the new cards and the expansion and everything we got. So Iron Judgment, guys, first impressions.
First impressions. Well, I will give the word to McBeard first.
Yeah, McBeard. I'm not sure if Flake has played already.
I've played, but I've done a lot more of the spectating than the playing right now. Again, my creative juices are kind of running dry a little bit, so I've just sort of given that freedom to other people and smarter than I am.
I mean, I feel what Flake was saying about how much time we put in before Challenger. Whoa, I almost knocked things off my shelf here. I put in about, it was like 200 games or so. It was a good amount of games, and the week we got back it was really hard to play. But I have gotten back in the saddle with the expansion, and I played mostly Squirtle and Monsters. It's been pretty good. I've enjoyed it a lot. I think that the Squirtle Dwarf deck will be a topic of discussion, but I can give you some monsters feedback as well. I think that Squirtle got a lot of really good cards in the expansion specifically. I think that most of their cards are pretty playable, and the power level of the cards are really good. But the deck itself is improved so much by those new cards. The faction, I mean, in general. I think it's pretty good. I think that the criticisms are kind of all over the map right now because we're only on day 3. So the people that have played a lot have seen like the first few days, like because dwarves are so popular, right? It kind of muddies what's really out there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like the true picture just hasn't been formed yet because streams are popular. It kind of, the popular discussion directs people to play, more likely what's very, very strong. But the hidden gems have yet to be discovered, I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still very early on.
Like the issue that McBeard brings up is something that I've tried to, hammer into people's heads as much as possible, is that as soon as a expansion is released, there's always a tweet, a Reddit post, a comment, a this, a that says, so what do we think of it? And it's like an hour into the release, and the dust hasn't settled yet, and people are already seeking a verdict on it. And I think people need to chill the F out about that kind of thing and let things settle, where you cannot adequately pass judgment on an expansion, whether it's ruining the game, whether the meta or a deck bubbles up. There will always be initial champions that come out of the first day of release, where some decks are some cards that are released, some spicy combos that you can already see a mile away that are going to just sort of flood the market. And people are going to look at it that way and be like, okay, like everybody wants to play this, and somebody might come up with some, really naughty concoction of cards that just wins more games, and all of a sudden people think that it's busted and OP. And we saw a little bit of this with Francesca right out of the hop with the when the patch was released prior to Gwent Challenger 5. And I'm not saying that Francesca is not a very strong leader at that time. I'm just saying that everybody thought that she was the second coming of some type of freaking apocalypse for Gwent because she was so strong. Whereas later on, people figured out how to beat her, and then she was not this, monstrous tyrant. So it's difficult to pass judgment about power levels within the first 2 or 3 days of an expansion. It's difficult to pass judgment on it after a week or even 2 weeks. You kind of need a solid amount of time for things to settle and for people to sort of figure things out. Initial judgment on Iron Judgment is that there's some really cool cards in it, and there's some very interesting ways that people are going to approach deck building, given the fact that there's so many new interactions.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the dwarf deck it feels very optimized. And I think we just need more time to make the other decks also very optimized, so it can par with the dwarf deck, for example.
It's really easy to build it, right? It's just,
exactly.
It all kind of just makes sense. It's like, this makes a lot of dwarves, and these cards care about a lot of dwarves. And
exactly.
somehow I can fit Giant Oak into this deck too, and that cares about a lot of cards too.
It's like an IKEA instruction manual.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very straightforward.
It gives you the Allen key as well. You don't even need a wrench or whatever.
And it has that dude in it who's like, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, aside of the first day, because that was kind of a mess, like with all the bugs, and like you were not even able to play unranked, I've been enjoying the expansion quite a lot. Like lots of new cards that I'm just really liking so far. So I've been trying out like Assimilate with Glynis. It's a really cool card to try out. I've been trying some more Franny Harmony with Percival and the new dwarf that also has Harmony and the machines. So yeah,
I imagine that card is good, right? Tell me, Percival is good? I haven't played with him yet, but he seems like he has to be decent, right? And Glynis as well, because at first I thought Glynis seemed slow to get started. Is that true, or is she?
Glynis is slower than Percival in my opinion, because with Squirtle you have the Mystic Echo ability, right? So you play the 2 fletchlings, you play 2 more fletchlings, and then you play Percival, so you trigger the other fletchlings, and then you can start, playing other cards like Milva. I usually play Milva after Percival because it gets +2, so it's a lot of value. But yeah, Glynis feels more slower. I can agree, because you don't. Yeah, I have not tried Calvate, for example. Maybe I could try something like that to make sure
proc her on the same turn.
Yeah, like I've been playing Anna, but I don't want to play Anna really early, right? When you play,
seems like it would just be better to use Imperial, just booster by 2, just play her for the.
Maybe that's something that maybe is the leader to play with the simulator. I don't know. I think I've seen people play Ardell. Maybe I should try that. Yeah.
It seems like not to just completely have a Nilfgaard conversation, but I haven't played it. I've played against, and also I got, I get to pro rank. I try to get to pro rank every season. Like when I play over 100 games, I usually commit to it. I actually really like the climb to 5 from 5 to 0. I think it's like super exciting, and you get to see all sorts of crazy stuff and get crazy highlight games before, Tailbot and Adzakov are kicking the crap out of you on pro rank. So I think that on the way up to 5, like I've been seeing a lot of stuff, but it still does follow like the same trends you would expect. So like almost every Scoia'tael deck is Mystic Echo, yeah, but almost every Nilfgaard deck is Imperial Formation right now. That seems to be a really popular one. That seems a really popular leader, which is Old Morvran with an extra charge, with no restriction on what the ability can buff, and with a new card that comes off the top of the deck when placed there. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I just think that, well, we can talk about problem cards later if that's a section, but
yeah, it actually is a section.
One
thing that I think people just still need to remember about is hotfix is coming. Like almost every expansion, there's a hotfix. So whether we see a lot of dwarves or whether we see a lot of, I don't know, Kalanth or Ardo, it all could change in a hotfix. And there's always some things that are gonna be subject to change. So I definitely appreciate the early few days of each expansion because people are just trying things out. And nobody really cares about climbing and getting the best out of the deck. It's more like, okay, we have all these new cards that are potentially gonna get changed in a way, so let's just get the best out of it in the first week of the expansion. Like that's probably my favorite part of the season.
Was Syndicate hotfixed in the Novigrad expansion? I know cooldown was added to Caleb and a cooldown was added to Igor, but like that wasn't happen. Did that happen super fast? Not the Igor one.
Not the Igor one. Yeah, the Caleb one was like 1 week after the
Freak Show got changed too.
Yeah. Oh, Freak Show. Yeah, Freak Show was the hotfix change. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now it's all coming back to me. Okay.
But yeah, as I said, the early couple of days are very chaotic, and I definitely appreciate people who are trying to try hard less and have fun more. Just seeing what's out there, what the new cards are capable of doing, and
returning players too.
And returning players, especially a couple of weeks after the Challenger and a couple of weeks before the mobile release. It's a huge opportunity for Gwent to actually get some more new players, because we know it's always been a problem. It's always been a problem for Gwent to get new players to actually play the game. It's been something that we all already know from closed beta, closed open beta. Like we always heard about new players not being interested in Gwent. It's just people try it out because it's free to play, and then the game is too complicated. It's really hard to get going, so people are just like, nah, I'm just gonna play something else.
Well, I think that the issue is not necessarily getting new players; it's usually keeping new players. I mean, because whenever there's a free to play option, it's very easy to dip your toe into the game, and the difference here is that Gwent offers a very generous free to play model, and especially compared to a lot of its competitors out there, getting into this game and being the point of walking into the game and being actually relatively competitive in your sort of bracket, your skill bracket. It's not hard if you're a good card player and you understand the mechanics. That's a whole other discussion as to the problem of actually retaining new players. But new expansions are always very good for attracting new players and bringing some of those old players back to see what's changed. And I guess, that's like I said, that's a whole different discussion as to what the symptoms are as to why new players come back to check it out and then maybe don't stay. Maybe they come back and look at the cards and say, okay, maybe some things that I didn't like prior have been changed or fixed or improved upon. But if they don't stay, that's a whole different, that's a more different, a fundamental issue that needs to be addressed. But it's always great when new expansions come out that really offer different elements to the game. And in this case, it's things like Defender, Armor, etc. Maybe that's the missing ingredient that a lot of people have been sort of craving for a while.
Craving Defender. Well, I mean, between you guys, what do you think the reaction is about Defender? I've seen I've seen not a lot of negative comments about it, but I've seen like almost zero positive comments about it.
You need to get on Reddit more.
Specifically Northern Realms, which is too bad because Northern Realms has the most boring defender too, right? So it would be too bad if this was the superstar defender.
I can already tell you that if you get on Reddit more, especially a couple of days prior to the actual launch, there was a lot of posts and a lot of comments about the defender. Most of them negative. But it's always like that. When you have a game-changing mechanic, when you have a new card or a new status that changes the way people play the game, there's always gonna be some sort of public outcry about what that card is. So I think people just need to sleep on it and just, play for a couple of days, see if Defender really is a problem, and then out their judgment instead of just rush, their opinion on, Defender's broken, please remove.
But that's what the internet is, man. And this is what really bothers me, especially about Reddit. And I'm like not shy to say it, is that even before the card is out, people are already going to crap all over something because they don't even, and because that's just the reaction, and they know that there's going to be people sort of jumping onto that train. And you can always predict what the comments are going to be. Like even before Defender hit the actual gameplay, people who have not seen it in action, not touched the PTR, have no clue what the actual gameplay is going to be like, are going to jump in there, say it's broken, it's ruining the game. And then you can also see the exact string of copy paste freaking stupidity comments below it of, dead game, yada yada yada, bullshit, and all that other stuff. Excuse my language. I apologize. It's 6 a.m.
It's okay.
Let's not create these shadow people that are just like the.
Okay, I won't create them. But they're phantoms that kind of come out of the woodwork when things like that happen. But the point being is that when opinions are formed without the actual experience of being there to actually play the card, that's an opinion that I'm okay to just completely dismiss.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it helps form the kind of the primordial discussion points that kind of come with days of experience, like the stuff that's really sharply being reacted to, I think. But I don't know. I think that what were we talking about, the defenders?
Mm-hmm.
I think like I have a Vrya Dragoon in my dwarf list that's been like low key a superstar, not just for defender, that's rogue, but just moving it. I mean, they have like.
Guys, I think we are losing McBeard.
Okay, it's about.
No, or maybe not. Maybe let's wait. You are still here. You are still here. We survived it.
Okay, I'm gonna be like roboting a little bit, but I can see it on my. I just have to reconnect to the call. What was it? Where did you lose me?
Right at the top. So yeah, McBee is firing in at like 360p right now, but it's okay. You got to get some more peas. Bring some more peas, McBees.
And we lost him, and he's back. We are trying to call him. Yeah, we did lose you for a second now.
Yeah, I just reconnected the call. Anyway, I'll finish my thought. I was just saying that. Where did you lose me?
Start from the top, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just really about defenders. I was just saying the last thing I was saying is the defenders, the way they price the defender ability, and the stats that they've given the defenders seems like it's generous. I think all the defenders have, like, if the defender ability is so polarizing, then the defenders are overstated probably, because I don't think that the ability is too much. I think it's just how many turns you need to spend to kind of get back onto your take control of the board again. Anyway.
And I think that brings us to the topic of, I think, at least in my opinion, the most problematic defender, and that's Azar Javed, because he puts 2 defenders on the board. So that means that it's gonna take a while before you can move them, before you can purify them, before you can kill them.
Yeah, and if you kill them, the opponent also gets some coins, so it's a pretty good defender. Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah, because if we just have a defender like other factions have them, you can purify them, you can move them, you can kill them. Like there's all sorts of way to counter it. and you're gonna spend only one turn doing it. And then you have Javed, and well, you have 2 defenders. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very problematic card right now, especially in combination with Bonded Seductress. That's like almost guaranteed to be played with Javed.
Yeah.
You know, in that basically you play Javed, you get the defenders, you play Seductresses on Portal. And yeah, what do you do? Like, Bonded Seductresses are already very, very strong. I think they're a little bit too cheap right now for provisions for a card like that. And then yeah, you have double defenders you have to take care of, and then you have Seductresses that get boosted whenever you play any card. So that's the problem I'm seeing with the Syndicate Defender right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the Northern Realms Defender is in the Pincer Maneuver deck, which is difficult because you could just play the Defender and then whatever you want. The Scoia'tael Defender is problematic because of how it protects the mercenaries, and it also supports the row stack stuff at the same time as enabling anything that cares about Rowdy Dwarves, like all at the same time. And the Skellige has the Sucrus interaction. I don't think that's good.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
It's still a thing that
what?
exists. If Sucrus is next to the defender, you can't hurt the defender, and you can't hurt Sucrus.
Oh.
So it's like.
So yeah, so basically what you're gonna do is you play Sucrus, you play defender in the middle, and then they play the priest on the defender. So just pick the defender, he doesn't get damaged. You get boost on the priest. It's just.
I did not even know about it. But
yeah, it is
You have to
possible.
purify defender or move defender, or you just basically lose.
Yeah,
or
that's
you
not
play
fun.
something like Cantarella or a Spy or anything that you can play on your opponent's side of the board. They just stop it from going on.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
I guess there are a lot of interactions, I suppose. Like,
yeah.
there's ways you can get it done, but I'm just saying, like, the defenders they put these new, like, huge problems into every faction. Didn't even talk about the Nilfgaard one, but Nilfgaard one is just good, right?
Yeah, just good. Yeah.
It's a good card.
I think the Nilfgaard Defender just synergizes with Assimilate, and that was the main goal of the card.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Whether or not it actually helped Assimilate is another question. Because as a Nilfgaard player, I think that Assimilate is just doomed to fail.
Why do you think that?
Because Assimilate is basically the Nilfgaard version of Harmony or Thrive, except it requires much more of a setup. And as somebody once told me, Assimilate is an archetype where you play low tempo cards for numerous turns to trigger them with bad cards. Because you have to play stuff like Imperial Diplomacy, you have to play stuff like Bribery, and these cards have a high chance of creating something that you cannot really use. So that's not only the problem with Assimilate, but also with soldiers. Like, the setup you need to get them going just takes a lot of time. Like, the only option to get let's say 2 engines on the board at the same time is either Artorius into a 1 power copy of an engine, which is not optimal, or Portal. Like, there's very few ways to get those engines on the board and start getting value right away. Whereas
with
if you have
Portal,
Thrive,
it seems like really hard.
Yeah, you do need Portal.
Yeah, whereas Thrive, you just play the Necker or the new Kikimor, and you have 2 engines.
Yep.
Or you play Scoia'tael and you have Novigrad Injustice and you have 2 engines. Or you play Waters of Brokilon and you have 2 engines. And if you manage to hold onto your Waters until round 3, you can get 4 engines in 1 turn. And Kalant can do it with Porto and Pincer Maneuver.
If only cards with Assimilate could just proc other Assimilate cards.
Yeah. Like, the idea that I had, and I briefly talked about it to BJ and Dennis on Discord, is do you guys remember back in beta we had all those tags for kingdoms in our or provinces in Nilfgaard? Like, for example, if you had an Alba unit, it would just say it's Alba. So what if we change Assimilate to something like, boost self by 1 whenever you play a soldier or a unit from another division. So let's say you have the Ardfian heavy cavalry right now. You place it, and then you play the Duco Guard, which comes from Toussaint. It's another division. Boom, you get a boost.
But why? But this is the thing. Then that becomes literally, like you said, it just becomes another harmony. I don't think that you need every single potential archetype to be good right now. And I don't think that, I mean, Assimilate has its place and it has its fun, areas, and it's not a completely trash deck. It's a deck that can win. Assimilate was one of the few, like, the decks that I most consistently lost to as Francesca back after the patch dropped at the beginning of September, where I would just not give it any respect and it would just absolutely just dumpster me in a long round because I could not lock anything, and it would just continuously, flood my board with crap and just continuously make more and more, triggers and triggers and triggers. I don't think that, changing it because you want it to fit a certain mold right now is the right answer if it hurts the actual faction identity or the archetype identity down the road. Like, not everything has to be tier 1 in order to be, okay within the game, because cards will come to help it. And at the same time, if everything's good, then nothing's good, so to speak. And then people are going to complain about why this isn't working or why that's not working and blah, 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 blah. It's okay to have a rotation of archetypes that go from the top of the heap to the middle to the bottom and back to the top. That's totally fine. Control was king once, and then it wasn't. And then engines were king, and then it wasn't. And then maybe something else is going to come over. And Point Slam was king once, and then it wasn't. And it's fine, because eventually it's going to get help. And if the designers and the developers at CDPR who are, planning these expansions can sort of have that roadmap, maybe they have some cards coming that make Assimilate already become, a next tier 1 deck. So it's okay to be patient with these things and not jump the gun and change them just because they're not the best right now or they're not up to par with the other best things. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I was solely talking from the perspective of what we would have to do to assimilate to make it good now. But yeah, you brought up a very good point that not everything has to be good right now, because there's always rotation. Mm-hmm. There is always gonna be a new concept that's gonna be better than some of the old ones, and some old concepts are gonna come out on top in a couple of expansions. So yeah, I was just talking about how assimilate is now and what we could potentially do to make it good now, right now, at this very moment. But yeah, I was actually talking to Rishik about it on Partners Discord, and he said it's an archetype, it works, it has a lot of support, it's gonna get more support, and we'll see how it goes down the road.
Mm-hmm. I mean, cards like Glyn is definitely a help, right?
Oh yeah, Glyn is very, very flexible. And when we are talking about specific cards, because we got how many cards? 84? This expansion?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you have your favorite card?
Favorite
from the
card,
expansion pool?
Yeah, Percival, definitely.
I think I might. I mean, Zoltan's Company is just like my kind of card, but it's a pretty basic card. I think Kikamore Queen right now is my favorite card, just because it's the card that I played the most with that wasn't just a crazy Scoia'tael card. The Kikamore Queen interactions are bonkers with Karen Thier, and it's just a ton of fun right now with Erica Swarm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you played a little bit on stream before it crashed. Yeah,
I played a little bit of it yesterday too. Yeah, basically you play Karen as long as you can get Kikamore Queen in hand. So I'm even running Fisher King right now just to make sure it's like as consistent as possible. But the rest of the cards you play on this deck are like pretty awesome. Like Ericus Behemoth is amazing, being able to spawn as many drones as you want. And then you play Karen Thier and Kikamore Queen to get a Kikamore Queen, and if you still have Whispering Hillock, you can replay Karen Thier for another Kikamore Queen, and then finally your third Kikamore Queen. And your opponent has to solve all those things. And it's weak. It's weak to Erden for sure. But I wasn't seeing that, so I was just like playing this and just dominating with this deck. It's so crazy. If they let you get into round 3 with this combo, it's too fun. It's too fun.
I'm really digging this new look kind of bug swarm kind of thing going on. It has this Zerg type of vibe to it, which is really cool that I like. However, if you're talking about one card that I really, really enjoy, when I first saw Living Armor, I thought that this was going to be one of those cards that, this is what I wish that every expansion would have, would be new types of interactions, really off the beaten path types of game text that aren't just boost by, damage by. Like, this is a very unique type of card that I thought can really, it's one of those cards that when you see your opponent play it, you have new ways to interact with your opponent's board that can change the way the round is going to go. And it's a dangerous card because it's a pretty powerful card, but the way that you kind of deal with it is on your opponent's side as well. Like, I love this type of uniqueness, and Living Armor to me is probably one of the flagship cards out of the set that I can say, if you're looking at the game, if you're looking at Gwent, this is what you want Gwent to have every expansion, is some type of interesting game text like this.
And there's already some really, really interesting interactions with this card.
Yeah.
Bane. What Bane did with Novigrad and this card,
it's
where
so
you just use
creative.
the Alchemist to copy its power onto other units. And since it doesn't really affect Living Armor in any way, because it's gonna get back to 10 in no time, because it has 10 armor. You just get like how much power?
The Alchemist does that?
Yeah, the Alchemist. Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's so cool! I didn't even think about that. That's awesome.
It's really crazy, and he puts armor on the Living Armor, so it's more points as well. Yeah, it's a really good interaction.
Yeah,
and then he played what's the old Emir ability where you pick up a unit. So he does that on the Alchemist.
Yeah. So you can actually play Alchemist again.
Yeah.
So you get 3 Alchemists in one round.
It's like Living Armor is the engine there.
Yeah.
It's just like
It's actually exactly how the old Fringilla cheese worked back in beta. When you play Tibor and then you copy its power onto the next unit, and then you pick up the Fringilla to copy the power of that unit onto another unit. It was like very, very Scourge prone, but if your opponent didn't have Scourge or Igni, you just won the game by 100 points or something.
Hand buff Nilfgaard, please no.
Yeah.
The worst, one of the worst decks in all of Gwent, in my opinion.
BJ, your favorite card? Is it really Percival?
Yeah, I mean, I've been liking Percival a lot because I've always been liking the Harmony archetype. So I think it's a great addition. Other than that, I don't really have any other favorite card at the moment.
He's a gnome. We got some gnome buddies.
Yeah, finally. So that means more procs on Harmony.
Yeah, it's a really simple
artwork there. He has a bad hand. He has like Roach in his hand. He has like
and
he's got a bunch of cards that he can't play, like Renew. You can assume that he can't play that either, I think.
Yeah,
but like the thing about Percival is that he's got Harmony too, so you're inclined to play him a little bit earlier to get as many procs off, but at the same time, you kind of also want your other harmonies on the board so that they get procced off of the gnome. So it's a little give and take. It's kind of like he's not as good as you might think he is, even though he has the Harmony 2 tag on him. And but talk about great art, like that is some wicked art.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the premium
is pretty good.
Yeah, but I do feel like the premium is a little bit unfinished. Yeah,
I don't know.
Really see that
yeah, but that's often the case. Like, you have to remember, I think they once explained it. Like, making card a premium takes a lot of time and resources. It's not as easy as we think it is.
Yeah.
So
of course.
Over time, you will see premiums being refined. I think that happened to Vivian this patch. I'm not sure if you guys remember. But for example, the pigeons in her card were just like white blobs of flying things, and I really thought that was kind of weird. It didn't even look like a bird, like let alone pigeon. And then they fixed it this patch, so now the premium is actually much better.
See, this is another card. This is another card that I think a really unique ability that I really love.
It is.
I love this kind of stuff. Enough of the boost by X, like enough of that stuff. Like, let's just make some really cool interactions and let people get creative with their decks. And if freaking amazing decks come out of it, then so be it. Then make amazing decks and make amazing counters. You know, we need amazing players to make these decks, man. Like enough of catering to very simple lines of play. Let's make some crazy stuff out there.
And you can this is my favorite card of the expansion, and you can actually do some really interesting stuff with it because
Razor Ramon.
Like the way people play Ramon is, I'm just gonna copy Dirtland Soldiers, that's it. But you can use them in essentially every Novigrad deck. You can use them with Ardo to copy Venendaals. Like 8-point Venendaal on a Ramon, that's a 12-point play for 10 provisions.
That's pretty good.
You can do it on Novgardian Knight. And the way I played it last stream was I was just playing 6 spotters per game. I was just playing Emir with Ramon and spotters and Vrygev. I won maybe 2 games, but that thing was hilarious, just to play spotters and copy spotters without any kind of operator Duchess Informant shenanigans. Just Ramon and Emir and Vrygev, and you get all these spotters on the board. And then you can even use FrameD to just buff these spotters if you want. And that's another great interaction. Like Ramon and FrameD just work great, even if you don't use Dirtland Soldiers. Because you get at least 3 copies, and that's 10 point on a 7-point gold, which is pretty amazing.
It just
this card
really
can still
flexible.
this card does everything. Like this card can it's like a Dahlia, right? Like it just every
basically,
card
a bit
that
better.
you want to copy is a soldier anyway. Almost.
Yeah, and it procs deploy,
so
it procs simulate, it procs a lot of things.
yeah.
It's so good. It's way better than Adalia. Like 1 provision less, 1 more base power, I believe, and then just really good. Yeah.
Very.
Plus, you copy with armor, so let's say if you are playing against Syndicate, or if you're Poison will still just kill it, but Syndicate and bounties, it's just gonna be so much power they're not gonna bother with putting a bounty on the card you copy, because it's just not worth it. So yeah, Ramon, definitely my favorite card. It's 10 provisions, and actually, you can play Vivian on him. Like plus
You
6
can.
buff.
Yeah. If you want to, you can.
I'm kind of half hoping, now that we said Razor Ramon, that his premium art eventually becomes him tossing a toothpick at somebody's face. That would be so good. Calling them Chico. That would be so great.
Yeah, I wish the premium was already released, because it's a pretty good card. Yeah.
Well, we gotta talk to Long Artist Name and see what they're doing with that art.
I find it really strange they have long artist name under cards where they they know the artists' names.
Yeah, it's not a secret. Like it's not Banksy, for Christ's sake. Just go ask the guy to write his name down.
It doesn't seem like that. Like it seems like it's weird that that was something that they couldn't finish. Like they couldn't fill in.
Yeah, because they already
names on it.
Yeah,
but
because they
had
already
time to copy paste. It just really really just shows like the rush right there. Just like shit, we don't have the artists.
Yeah.
Well, we never have the artists for the expansion, which is pretty true. Like you usually don't have the artist credits there. But it's almost maybe because they didn't have space for it. It's like, well, let's just put something there. We have to hit send. We have to hit send, and they just like Control V, Control C, Control V, put something there. I don't know. But
to be honest, right now I'm just not sure if they really had no time, or if they just screwing around because they have a reputation to uphold. It's like, we are not gonna put the artist name because people know it's not gonna happen. Like we know the artist, we have the name, but we're not gonna do it because we
maybe
can.
the artist was just literally like, this is my professional, it's like my pseudonym or whatever, like, this is my, this is the name I go by, like, this is my stage name kind of thing. Maybe this person is like the Cher of Gwent art, where they try to change their name around a little bit, do some like weird stuff, and just like, nope, this is my name, I'm Long Artist Name, and that's who I am.
I actually have some trivia. The Draco Turtle is actually an Anna Podadworna piece of artwork, which is interesting. I'm less interested. Like, this is like a huge Reddit thing. Like, people love this artist a lot, and for good reason. She's a fantastic artist. But the narrative here is that she left CDPR a while ago, and she's done like some artwork for Magic the Gathering, and now she works at a different game studio. And people are. She also did The Good Boy. She also did Knickers. So it's like. People were like saying that they'd never see another piece of art from her again, but she did a lot of unused art for CD Projekt Red. So this is an Anna P artwork, but
Wow.
even this doesn't say that. It says long
Yeah.
artist name.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo posted Glynis, I think. Didn't he do Glynis? Lorenzo Mastriani, who's what my personal favorite because he did Triss
He's really good.
Telekinesis, which is my personal favorite artwork, I think, in the game. And he's just amazing. But that's Lorenzo, I think, who did this. So it just seems like it's like a weird choice.
Yeah, and it's silly.
They just didn't update this build in time. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because they already figured it out before the expansion release. They found it out in the video, the dev video. So it's really
And the video was recorded at least like 2 days prior to the expansion.
It must be a build thing. They just meant to get it into the build and didn't. And then in the hotfix they didn't. And then in the second hotfix they didn't.
Yeah.
So,
but speaking of Anna P, we actually asked Busha about it on the last podcast because that was one thing that people were really curious about. Like, but he said she just wanted to move on. There was no bad blood or anything involved. She just wanted a change of scenery, I guess.
I mean, her art is good, but
It's absolutely amazing.
People move. People move on to other things.
Yeah,
like all the amazing cards like Imlerith and one of my favorites, Ida. It's also her art.
Oh yeah, no, she is fantastic.
But she didn't
draw them all, and they're all good.
A very interesting topic, the good boy. So I guess now it's the moment to talk about problematic cards and decks that we've already spotted a couple of days into the expansion.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the good boy is definitely number one when we want to talk about cards that could be a problem down the line.
So you think Knickers is a problematic card?
Yeah, I think it is.
Let's talk about it. I haven't had a problem with this card yet.
Yeah, me neither.
Some people haven't had problems with Affin either, and I have had 2 problems with that card. So.
Yeah, I have problems with Affin as well.
Oh, okay. So it's not just me.
This is a card that, remember McBeard in the room at CDPR? When we saw this card, we essentially just ganged up on Jason Slama and asked him so many questions about this card, and he was just so mum about it. We were there and we're like, okay, so is it total related? Is it card based related? Like, and he's like, I don't know. And he's like, and if I do tell you, or if someone does figure it out, I am just gonna hotfix it and change it. So who cares?
Yeah, that's the thing. As soon as someone, I would like to see if this actually occurs, but. Yeah, if somebody figures out exactly how this card works, and if you're just watching the podcast, so Knickers could at any point in round 1 come out when you play a card, and if he doesn't come out in round 1 or round 2, he's guaranteed to come out in round 3 at some point. But there's no game in which he just won't appear. I think he'll always appear, but you just never know when he'll appear.
It's guaranteed.
But is the problem that he can appear at a time that where's the problem? What makes him worse than like
he can jump on the board after you passed. That's what people are saying. So he can basically the War Dancer trick.
So
but
you couldn't after you pass. No, the War Dancer problem was that it was at the beginning of the round.
But let's say you passed because you thought okay. Your opponent might be playing Knickers, but I'm like 3 points ahead, so I'm gonna pass. And then your opponent passes, and Knickers come out, and it's a draw.
Oh yeah, that's terribly frustrating.
Or
that.
It's round 2. You think, okay, I'm just gonna dry pass because I really fought, tooth and nail to have the last say, and then your opponent's like, okay, Knickers, boom.
Yeah, but that person must have been cracking the code in that case, like. Why else would you, pass?
Yeah, passing and getting it is like you're risking just losing the game. I feel like you just do that. Whereas
sometimes you gotta YOLO it, you just gotta trust in the good boy. But
I mean, we already started making a drinking game with the Knickers.
Oh yeah.
Like, for example, when you assume it's coming out and it's not coming out, you have to drink. And if you say it's not coming out and it comes out, you have to drink again. It was really funny.
So on that note, the whole point of you taking that risk to win a game off of a knickers that comes out because it would be like the craziest thing, and like it was said in the chat right now, 10% to win with card advantage or 90% to lose the game. In poker, there's a whole mantra of you don't chase a flush or you don't chase a straight. You just, if you don't have the cards after the flop, you kind of just fold it. You don't pay into a losing hand. And everybody loves that one poker player who finds that miracle card and feels invincible, so they'll continuously play recklessly, and in the long run 9 out of 10 times they'll lose, but that one time out of 10 will make them continue to make bad decisions. So if somebody wants to pass thinking that they can get knickers out reliably on that 3-point play, so be it. Good for you. I hope that it works out for you once, so the other 9 times you lose miserably.
But it's not only that. For example, you can pass round 1 thinking my lead is comfy enough, and then your opponents plays a big card, and knickers come out, and instead of spending 2 cards, for example, you only have to spend 1 card to catch.
Maybe he's linked to your own frustration and heart rate, where like there's some crazy Gwent technology out there that reads your frustration and your emotional state, where if you really don't want him to show up, he will show up and ruin your life. And that's how
just imagine the pure frustration. You think like, okay, I have a comfy lead, I'm just gonna pass. The opponent thinks, okay, I'm gonna play 2 cards, that's still fine. He plays 1 card, and then boom, knickers shows up. Okay, I guess I just have to play 1 card. Easy game.
Yeah, I completely agree that is absolutely crazy frustrating. And I mean, we have to also appreciate the fact that there were days where the RNG was much more egregious and much more frustrating than this.
Oh yeah,
like,
I think that
3-point random RNG, I can digest that on occasion if it's going to come up and ruin a game now and then, like on the in the long haul, if it's just 1 or 2 games over the span of 50, I'll take that in stride if it means never having to see another runestone absolutely just devastate my board. Like, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, do you guys remember the old beta days where Create was still very, very strong and was being played at tournaments, and Shoop was making appearances on tournaments? That was the kind of RNG that I'm not gonna miss in Gwent.
Like, Shoop's still making appearances.
Oh yeah, Shoop, yeah, but you don't have the old slave drivers or the old elven scouts.
Oh, well, slave drivers were the worst. Those were so bad.
Knickers, I think it is slightly problematic, but it's not as problematic as Affen. Affen is just... Oh god. This is basically the war dancer.
This card. Yeah, this card just jumps out at the beginning of a round if your opponent has it on top of their deck through a mulligan. It counts as being moved there. Like if you just mulligan it and it ends up on the top of the deck, and you'll be in your mulligan screen and you'll hear this dude be like, all right, whatever he says. I don't even know like the meme about a voice line yet. He's saying something in Nilfgaardian, so it's not going to be a too fast for you Dwan meme. It's just going to be whatever he says. But I hear it in the mulligan screen.
Too fast for you, barbarian.
Yeah, it's like PTR, like what is PTSD? PTRSD.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm like, I can't believe this is happening again. I can't believe I'm in my mulligan screen and I'm hearing my opponent get points. This is fucked up.
There is your dry pass.
Triggering.
There goes your entire strategy of winning round 1 and having the last say.
That's it. Like I have a little clip, just a little clip of me experiencing this, and it's very clear what is happening. I got on red coin, I got Calvin on even cards. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll do the quick pass. We'll go up with the, and I was going to do the quick pass on him, but there's Affen Hillegran saving his life, and he gets he gets his card.
That was a poignant 6-second clip, McBeard, because I remember watching it and it's just you saying like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, just like it's all it is. My reaction tells it all.
It's so concise, yet it just punches with such emotion. Like I listen to it and it's just like, what the hell is this? And then clip ends and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel that. I totally feel that pain.
Yeah.
The second time it happened, I was not as I was a little bit more.
I do
vocal.
like the card. I do like the card.
The card is great. The play with Albrecht, the play with
Yeah.
like the way,
Morvren.
obviously how Morvren does it, and you can sear it back into the deck. Like you can play with Albrecht for like it feels like Darren Morkvarg, right? It's like a tidy 2-card play that takes a card out of your deck. It's almost identical. Then you sear it back in, and you play Morvren's ability Imperial Formation again, and he comes back later. Like that's how the card should work, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when it ward answers out of the deck during my mulligan phase,
That's not cool.
It can be problematic. Yeah.
Like it could be worse. Just imagine if he would automatically jump on the board whenever he was on top of your deck. So, war console, you see his second, you play the first card and he jumps. That would be even worse. But it does not count as moving.
It would have to interact differently if there's 2 triggers. It's like, is it on the top of the deck or is it not on the top of the deck? Because that's why I think it's what's happening. Because as soon as it's on the top of the deck, it plays it, even if it's not moved to the top of the deck. That's so the wording in the tooltip. But I don't want it to be changed. I don't want the tooltip to be changed. I just never want it. I want it to only play if it is like part of a move mechanic.
Yeah.
Like it's put there by a card. Like Duke of Ara Novice, Albrecht, Fisher King, whatever, like all those cards specifically, but not mulligans and not I played a card. Like if you play Vilgefortz and Vilgefortz plays the top card from your deck and Affin is the next card, does Affin auto play? I don't know that interaction.
I have not
is
tested
that how it works right
yet.
now? I don't know.
So,
yeah, he is.
Dr.
mean-
Dennis was saying
That doesn't. So Mulligan is qualifying as a move right now. I know that for a fact, but sometimes he's not moved, but he is still on top of the deck. So Mulligan just needs to be given that same condition, I think.
Yeah, Dr. Dennis was saying it doesn't work with like War Council, for example.
Yeah,
when
it doesn't.
when it's like the
Yes.
second card. You pick the
There's
first card.
We are losing McBeard again.
I'll fix it.
Oh, he's back. Wait, no,
It's gone.
Oh.
It's back. I think he's resetting the call.
Yeah,
There he
this
is.
You were resetting the call, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
speaking of top of the deck shenanigans, that's actually a very interesting play to counter defenders. Like, of course, with the exception of Syndicate. But if you have like a big defender, you can always Yennefer Invocation him, and then you use Vilgefortz to get him on your side of the board.
Yeah.
I did that with the Skellige defender a couple of times. Guys,
Did
are
you know
you
what?
there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
my connection is bad right now. It's not speaking until like here.
Okay.
But what even is
Yeah,
more
I-
problematic is like the interaction with, and I'm not even sure if I should talk about this because people can abuse it. I already told CD Put Red about it, but if you purify Defender or a unit with shield and you yoink it with like a Philippa, it just crashes the game. It's a draw.
Wait, what? What?
Like these
Yeah.
are more grain breaking bugs. Like are these?
Yeah, really game
Well,
breaking.
Can't find out who starts abusing this kind of stuff. Who knows? And do we lose McBeard again? McBeard's back. He is back. He is back in action.
Guys, don't wait for me. If I'm not talking, it's because my connection is bad. But it's
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
it's
it seems
We
good now.
already had an episode, or actually a couple of episodes, where we had a silent partner in crime. Because the first episode, our co-host Villa was just so far behind with the delay. He was just sitting there and would ask a question, and it would take around 30 seconds for him to hear it.
Yeah,
And,
that
and
happens.
then last episode, he was just sitting there, we're talking to Pavel, and Villa was just, okay. So we are used to it.
We got to go across the ocean. It's got to go to
Yeah.
space, back, and it's the world of the future.
Yeah, our internet is kind of like it's a mix of copper wiring and maple syrup. It's just not ideal just yet here in Canada. We're figuring it out though.
No duct
That's why I
tape?
see the two of us on at the same time. It's just this is like the Canadian satellites are just sweating right now. It's insane.
Yeah.
Guys, I know it's probably too early to talk about, but how would you rate the balance of the expansion so far? Before any kind of hot fix, based on your experience in the last couple of days.
So wait, you're asking what would be like the quickest, like if we had to make like 3 changes right now, like what would we do? Or are we
Yeah,
just
how
talking
would you rate the balance? Is there anything
how would we
that's
rate the balance? Oh, okay.
The balance.
I would say, let's see. I mean, how would I rate the balance? I mean, I can't do that really on day 3, but I can offer some suggestions, I think.
yeah,
as
that's
to
basically
maybe
what I'm looking
some-
for.
So I don't know what needs to be done necessarily with Scoia'tael. I think it's probably like I don't want them to nerf all the new cards. I think that maybe Monroe probably doesn't need to be 7. Like if we're just looking at the sheer amount of like points that are just coming out of the new cards, like I don't think Monroe has to be 7. I don't know if even Zoltan has to be 6. But that's like whatever stuff. But I think that the Mahakam Guard is just the way I put it on when I tweeted about it is just he went from 0 to hero. This card was so awful, right? It was a 5 provision point, 2 strength card that could never get good value. And now it's 4 provisions and 3 strength, and you're playing it for like 9, 10, 11 points on the top end. And the later you go into like round 1, you can just play this you play Mahakam Guard. Like that's how you keep up. That's how you keep up with while your opponent is playing their big bomb cards, you're just playing Mahakam Guards. And it's so easy to stack the rows up. But I like the row stack dwarves. Like, okay, like that's like a classic beta staple, and row stack dwarves is back. And it's like, that's okay. It's just the cards, that card and Barclay Elves are just like they seem hyper overtuned now based
And
on
Zoltan.
Yeah, and Zoltan too. Like it's so easy to get so many dwarves on the board. Zoltan's an interesting case where his restriction is fair-ish. I guess it's like now it's his strength level may be too high. Like his body might be too high for his effects. Like or his provision level is too good at 8. Maybe he needs to be a 9. Like I think his effect is, it's kind of like Yavin, but elves are worse, right? If elves were better, Yavin would be crazy too, right?
Yeah.
So but also Zoltan destroys the unit, goes through armor because it doesn't actually deal any damage. So that's interesting. That's like one more extra reason why he's super good in an armor world. Like it's just he's very, very good. Zoltan. We're talking about Zoltan Chivet, not Zoltan Warrior, who is also good because if you could just play, you play Echo, Zoltan's company twice, new Zoltan, 18 points.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One thing that instantly crossed my mind when you said it's a beta staple, I was like, don't give them ideas because next patch they're gonna just slap Brazilians on those dwarves.
No, they took the resilience off the dwarves. No, they're showing that like they want to maybe take resilience out a little bit. And now Gabor is that taking around with Gabor is
oh yeah,
frustrating. We got to get muzzle back in this meta ASAP.
Yeah, that the Mazel is just like Ardo is still crying in the corner about what happened to Mazel.
Yeah, no tactic, but he got a better tactic. Like you can't Meno it though. That's the real crying shame. You can't Meno.
Like, personally, I think Ardo is still gonna be the best Novigrad deck to be played.
Yeah.
Like proactive Novigrad is fun to play if it works, but against other proactive decks like Kalanth, Dwarves, even some monster decks, even Skellige engines, you just can't really match the points.
Yeah.
So
the question was
Novigrad.
about balancing, though. I think we were talking about balancing, and I think I totally derailed it. So I just want to say like just 2 more quick things. I think Savola is just too many points,
especially in combination with Louisa.
No, that's specifically that combination, the 24.2 card combo, where in a faction that had to maybe ramp up to its full potential and now has a short round like blowout. I don't really think that that's what the faction needed, and I think it's like a spike in power to fill a gap that the faction's good. Like the faction was good already, and Mutated Direhand is like also pretty crazy good too.
Yeah,
it's just good cards that the faction got when they were already really good. So it's like, okay, well, we'll swap out maybe like these other cards that were good but not 24 points good, and still play our amazing packages that are good. Like I just think that Savola is maybe like I can count, and I just think it's like it's too many points.
Yeah, it's 24 points in 2 plays.
And I think that's what was the other thing that I thought that might be overtuned. I'm not really sure yet, but I think that Savola stands out as kind of crazy. Like I only really don't know. I don't complain about Savola because I've been playing dwarves mostly, and I've been playing like crazy combo ramp monsters. So I'm like ballparks away from them when they play Savola.
Yeah.
I don't even feel it, but I've lost to it with worse decks, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do? You can't do anything. You see Louisa, and that's it. You know it's happening. You can't stop it. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only option left is to maybe Leo or just kill the Frightener.
Yeah, maybe tile removal.
But but it trades down to tall removal. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Like, you played your 3-point Geralt to kill the 12-point Frightener, and he still got 6 points. Like, Savola still gets good trade on the tall removal too. So it's just like, you still not even that great.
Yeah, it's really interesting how we had this faction with a very strong long round, and now it has a short round 3 that's equally strong to hyper thin. It's just wow.
Yeah, thing is, I have not seen that much hyper thin. Although I have not played a lot of ranked. Only 5 matches.
Yeah, that's surprising because hyper thin should be stronger now with War Council and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's perhaps, yeah.
I mean, I guess the matchups have all changed. Like, it's obviously matchups against dwarves and matchup against, I guess, whatever the strongest deck that's popular on a given day. Especially in the expansions where like any like Shinmiri or Pumpkin or somebody who's at the top of the directory could be streaming like something and just be doing really, really well with it, and that completely changes. Like in the first week of the expansion, that could happen so many times.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people tried dwarves first, and it was just like so clear that this deck can do it all at any given time in the round. So I think
because it's very easy.
However,
it's very easy to build. You don't really need to have an insane knowledge of the game, or you don't need to be a great deck builder. You just slap some dwarves into your deck, and boom, you're done. You can play.
Yeah. But I guess we have to wait a couple more days, like maybe a week.
But have we actually seen something that's like completely broken? Broken as in it's not working as intended? With the exception of Afen, that's kind of a touchy issue. It's a question mark. Have we seen anything like that? I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh, is it happening again?
It's another polar bear attack on the Igloo. The Igloo internet infrastructure has been infiltrated by an army of angry beavers. Yes. That or McBeard is just a Cylon. McBeard is a Cylon, and he is here to essentially eradicate us all. Can you confirm or deny this, McBeard?
See, I can hear you guys. So,
are you a Cylon?
Okay.
All right. Well, I think are we stable? Are we good? I think we're good.
Yeah. So yeah, I was asking about cards that are broken. Like, is there anything that we've seen that's just not working as intended, other than the Philippa interaction and Afen?
No, I
don't think so.
Not
I think
seen anything else.
Like in that regards, it's a pretty good expansion, right?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Well, there's a lot of new elements, which is always good. Adding extra flavor and new elements like armor, etc. I'll always be a fan of adding new layers to the game. For instance, with when Novigrad came out and they added Syndicate, but not just Syndicate, but the coin feature as well, which is great. So now we have extra ways to manipulate the game state with armor and defender and things like that. But it has to go beyond just blanket mechanics like armor or defender. I think it has to go further to actual more cards that are unique, more cards that can be played in various ways that are not one-dimensional. And I think that is what makes this set particularly interesting, because you have cool cards like Living Armor or Knickers, or on top of the fact that they added new gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, and talking about armor, there was actually a question from Milan Troska about armor. Like, should they implement armor to like old cards? And Is it a little bit overdone to give like armor to like a Geralt Axie, for example?
I think adding. I think I like what they did where they kind of put all the armor into the one expansion, because kind of going back and just like when you add an expansion, you don't want like, and no other card game would do this, right? Like when they added Discover to Hearthstone, they didn't put Discover on other cards, and when they had keywords in Magic the Gathering. I mean, that's not a digital card game. Well, it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? Like you don't just come up with an effect that's good and then just go ahead and just add it to everything in the back end, because it kind of dilutes what you're getting out of a expansion, I guess. Like if you want to play with armor and like there's armor, like it's interesting the way they kind of put armor on everything. I don't think they needed to put armor on everything. My suspicion is that they wanted to have the cards that interacted with cards that had armor to have heavier interaction with like a powerful legendary that has like one piece of armor on it, so it's automatically susceptible to like the extra damage from One-Eyed Betsy or whatever. Like I can't really imagine why else they would have done stuff like that. But also to give them a protection against lacerate, or against pings, just to further devalue damage, just because, or random pings, just because all these good cards happen to have armor on them as well. But the question was like, is the expansion a good expansion? In my first couple of days playing it, I would say that even though the power level of some of the decks, it's not just dwarves. Like a lot of the decks, when they're winning, like they're running away with the game. So if you can kind of execute, I feel like it's all about executing a position of like playing first in a decisive round, or getting the pass you need to just make that play early in the round that makes your opponent say, I don't think I can answer that with this hand. And it's almost like that decision can come earlier these days, because it's like, if you can't answer Defender onto the quadruple mercenaries, or you can't answer the triple Kikamore Queen or whatever, you just kind of, it's over earlier. I feel like that's how I felt about this expansion. I feel like I know games are over earlier than they are. On one side of the board or the other, either me or my opponent, I feel like I'm conceding with really good knowledge, like that I'm out of the game more often. So I think that the power level is really spiky right now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the spiky power level of new things just pushes everything else down. So it would mean like there'd be like smaller chunks of tiers, which is not good. You want to have like big chunky tier lists, like 5 in tier 1, 5 in tier 2, like that kind of stuff. So I want to see that stuff kind of settle, but if there's a hotfix coming, we'll have to see kind of what settles, because God, at least fix the sound bug. That's all I got.
Yeah. Oh, that's so terrible.
I hate it so much. I want to play on the new ship, but I don't want to deal with all day long.
Man. And the problem is if you actually lower the sound effects, it's gonna kill the audio of some cards, because some voice lines are apparently sound effects.
But the ship, like the board sound effects aren't, they don't care about, none of the numbers you can change in the audio settings changes the volume of the board right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like personally, I get a headache when I'm playing on the ship board, so I just disable it. I'm just playing on my board all the time.
I can't wait to play on that ship board.
I
don't know. It's something about the motion, that the ship moving, that gives me a headache. So I can't focus on what I'm doing. And I'm just, constantly having like that really weird feeling. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna play. Just forfeit. Just change the board.
Yeah, you're just getting seasick.
But here's what I do like, though. I like that I can role play a little bit. I can be like, I'm Radovid. I'm in Temeria playing my first game, and now I'm getting on my ship to go to a new place, and I'm playing a game on the ship. Like, actually feels like an RPG encounter. It's like, like the early Final Fantasy.
And you can actually shoot the harpoon launcher, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, you can shoot the harpoon. Oh yeah. Shout out to everybody who makes those little pieces of wood fly up and the little clangs on the shields and the swords.
That's really nice.
There was actually a bug in the board. Like you can see a card below the floor of the ship. Sometimes it's really weird looking. They should look into that. But
yeah, they'll fix. I mean, it's an ambitious board. I like it a lot. Yeah, I just want it to be not like static white noise in my ear.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the feeling that sometimes the game is over quite early, and like one comparison that I've heard quite a lot is people are saying that they have the feeling they are playing Homecoming Gwent while their opponent is playing Beta Gwent, in the sense of raw power.
Well,
yeah, The decks are really strong right now.
This is what I've always been curious about, is that when someone says, "Oh, you're playing an OP deck," it's like I didn't bring it out of an attic somewhere where only I can play this deck. Like, other people can play the cards that I play. So when it comes to power levels and the fact that certain decks are OP, yeah, it gets frustrating when everybody plays what's obviously most powerful. But in the same regard, there's the ratio of people who net deck and play what's strong just because it's strong and other people are playing it versus the amount of people out there who are innovating and trying new things. And I sympathize with those who try new things, because trying new things is really freaking like it just crushes your soul, because on your path to making something great, you might have this janky idea that you think could be tuned to be good. But then as you're progressing through that process of improving it and refining it, you're facing these net decks and you're facing these OP decks. So you're getting smashed and completely demoralized. So I don't blame people for playing the best decks, because it does feel good to win, and it does feel okay to just play that easy mode and just cruise with what is already tuned and find like that frequency on that deck is already dialed into a max. It's already a 10. You can't go to 11.
That's the scary part, though. Is it? It's only day 3, like dwarves. Like, let's just say dwarves right now. Like, but is it actually as good as it could be? Because I'm scared that it isn't. Like, nothing is.
In the grand scheme of the entire landscape of the game, it's the only, it's the best out there. So it's effectively the only 10 that is out there. If something surpasses it, it's no longer 10. But you know what I mean? It's the best out there. But the process for actually innovating, it's a very tough process to go through, because you might have a good idea, but on your way to making that good idea a viable deck is a string of about 15 games where you might win twice and get absolutely slaughtered the other, 13 times, because the people are playing these big decks. So people just, it's hard. It feels bad to lose that way. And that's why people probably abandon the creative aspect of it. So I applaud all those who try new things on the regular. And for those streamers who go out there and even for anybody who posts decks that are outside the norm and try new things to try to inject a little bit of creativity, like, that feels good. So, in the same regard that I don't blame those who play those OP decks, I equally admire those who innovate and create, because that you need more of that. But the ratio is just completely off in one direction.
Here's something that happens to me sometimes when I'm making a new deck, and this is the demoralizing thing for me, is that I'll get a cool idea and I'll be working on it, and I'm like, I'm losing a lot. I just need to make a couple of changes to make this better. Oh, I can see the changes. And then as I'm making the changes, I realize I'm just building the deck that's already popular, and I'm just kind of like, well, this is better. Yeah, this is better. Yeah, well, now I wouldn't run this. Well, now the deck just looks like the strong version of this deck. And
but that's why the game needs more unique cards.
Yeah. Well, sure, yeah. But I mean, like, it's like you kind of come to the conclusion where it's like the best way to play this is probably the way that people are playing this, and can I have fun and still do as good as I can do? Some decks surprise us, and especially now. I mean, I think that there's got to be some sleepers out there for sure. And I think that, like, I've been playing with Manticore Venom and even Ericus Venom, which is lower on the provision scale. Like, if you are just running into people that are just spamming Dwarven Mercenaries, punish them with these cards.
Right.
It does only solve one of the many problems, but like, if you're trying to bleed them and they drop the 4 mercenaries and you Ericus Venom, you actually can maybe bleed them, or at least get them into a round 3 where they can't beat you. It is a card that matters that right now, Manticore Venom and Ericus Venom. Yeah, and the one Vrya Dragoon makes a world of difference. Oh boy. Because you know what? Northern Realms, they got to play a lot of shit on range. Even if you move it early, they still have to play like Dandelion or whatever. Viso has to go in range as well. Visogoda. So just move it to the front row and just, clip them.
Yeah, but you were talking about the deck building process, that sometimes you have the feeling that you are just making a worse version of a deck that already exists. And in that department, the game keeps getting progressively better. Mm-hmm. When Homecoming first dropped, I had the feeling, for the first time, we have fewer cards than in the previous version of the game. But a couple of expansions later, there is just so many things you can experiment with.
Yeah, I mean, well, the deck building process revolves typically around the fact that you're like, okay, this is a nice synergy, so let's work around this. And it usually, at least in my own brain, you see 2 or 3 cards that could have a cool interaction, and you go from that. Like, I used to Caranthir Spear Tip and then play Twisted Mirror on it to make it like a 23-point card, and that was a 3-card combo that was worth a ton of points.
Those tinny plays.
Well, that's it. And to me, it wasn't a tier 1 deck. It wasn't a high win percentage deck, but it was an interesting deck that was worth looking into and actually trying. And to me, that was part of the process. That's part of the enjoyment, because being number 1 on Pro Ladder is phenomenal, and I would love to do that one day, and I never will. However, knowing that, a lot of my enjoyment comes with the fact of finding these kind of cool combos and winning those games in that way. And a lot of the reason why that these decks can kind of come out of nowhere and be, win some games, not all the games, obviously, not even most of the games, is that there are cards like Caranthir and Twisted Mirror that have these interesting interactions that you can kind of base ideas around and then expand upon them. But if you're looking at something where it's like, well, all these cards kind of, boost each other up and do a lot of the similar things, but to the more that there are, the better it'll be, then eventually you have to start looking at your win rate of your janky idea, and then that's when you start pick and choosing and swapping in cards. It's because, this card is better than this card. But again, the fundamental idea of the decks are fairly similar as it is, because the actual uniqueness and the jankiness of the card set is not there for certain archetypes to exist, or for certain ideas to actually blossom into something that you can play or build around.
Yeah. For example, the Corsair, right? It's like basically a copy of the Necrot ability.
Yeah, that's a talking point. I think the fact that the reworked cards ended up feeling like they were just, like you said, like the Necrot of the Seas and like the Garcane of Locks. And I mean, it's fine, I guess. I think it's fine. I think that they could have made new cards. They didn't have to change. I mean, Master of Disguise, I guess I understand, because that's probably it's a very crazy ability for a bronze card, I think. And the fact that you'd have to put it on an expensive bronze card, and they don't want to have expensive bronze cards anymore, I get it. But I don't know, like, what was the one I really didn't like? Slave Driver. That was the one I really hated. I thought, like, what's wrong with this card? That's a cool card.
Oh, you mean Slave Hunter?
Slave Hunter,
Slave
right?
Hunter. Sorry, yeah, Slave Hunter.
Yeah. I mean, I
like
the
so
card.
it's not seeing play. Like, it's still,
I mean,
it
was a cool card, and I was actually crazy enough to play it last season. It did not go very well.
Like, Marches always finds it. So if there's a meta where you think you actually can steal something, I mean, it was like so weak. I mean, it's just like it felt like it got its value because it's usually swinging like 2 or 3, I guess. So it's like usually getting, it sometimes can steal an engine, I guess, especially in this current meta. Like, you'd get the Dwarven Mercenary, let's just say it for an example, or a Rowdy Dwarf. Like, that's not even that good, but you could have made it better or left it. I just don't think they needed to take it away. There must have been a reason. There must have been something. They really,
it was one of those cards that were so bad that you always had the feeling maybe people who are smarter than me and who are more knowledgeable than me when it comes to Gwent have overlooked it. Maybe there's something to this card that I can build around. And now it's just another assimilate card. The same way Master of Disguise is just another +1 engine. I see it more as a placeholder for potentially a better ability in the future.
I mean, that's the other thing. Like, we are moving forward with expansions right now. The changing of old cards is something that I, at this point, would like to see as little of as possible. Like, unless, like, obviously, when you look at how much stronger Mahakam Guard and Barclay Elves have gotten with the new cards, it would be a different story if Mahakam Guard was never buffed in the first place. If Mahakam Guard was still a 5 strength, 2 provision, or sorry, a 5 provision, 2 strength card, it would have been bad for much longer until now, and then you'd consider running it, because you'd still get it to like 8. You'd still get it to 8 or 9 or whatever, 7 or 8, I guess, if it was at that strength level starting. but that's pretty good for the 5 strength card. And it's an engine. I keep on talking about this card. It's like an engine that gets all its value like later. You never have to protect it. You
like
just have
old
to,
enforcers or Imperial Brigades. You just play the
Yeah.
spies and retroactively you get all the value.
Yeah, it's just what I was trying to say is that changing old cards, I feel like when it comes to completely changing abilities, like nerfing cards, okay,
Yeah.
that'll happen. But completely changing
And-
abilities, I don't want to do that anymore. I
Yeah.
know these cards now. Like, can we just get to know these cards?
Expanding on that thought of changing well-established concepts, unbinding leaders from their abilities. It's something that I was asked just to talk about on the podcast. What do you
Yeah.
guys think about the idea of just having the leader skin separate from the ability?
So I actually spoke about this yesterday on another podcast about exactly what Gwent was doing with this. And the way I thought about it, the way I had to explain it was, imagine you're playing Mortal Kombat and you like Scorpion's skin, but you like Liu Kang's moveset. I'm like, would you still play the game if you could use any moveset with any other skin? And it was kind of a mixed, a little bit of a mixed reaction to that. But because a lot of people just automatically associate the moveset with the actual skin, and that's just kind of how that goes. How do I feel about it? Well, the problem is that moving forward, there are now 6 factions. Whenever you want to create a new leader or add new aesthetics to the game, you now have to create a moveset or an ability to match that leader. And at the same time, so that people don't freak out and claim that they are some type of victim because they main Skellige and Northern Realms got a new leader, you probably have to go ahead and make a leader for all 6 factions, meaning you need 6 new abilities to go with it. And that, I'm not saying that CDPR is afraid of hard work. I'm saying that that's a big ask to bring in 6 brand new leaders and make sure that everything's balanced. It is a monumental task to balance and do that. That said, why not bring in skins of your favorite characters that, frankly, it's a business. There are salaries at CDPR. They have to actually eventually make money. So it is a way to just go ahead and buy the skins and do that. Now, are they doing it in the right way? That's a different discussion. But separating it, I think that it wouldn't have been an issue if they started it this way, because you would never associate the actual ability with the leader for the most part. But I do see how a lot of the leaders from beta Gwent or from old Gwent, 3-row Gwent, a lot of the flavor of the leader abilities was really linked to the character and the character from the lore. So people already associated it. So separating them has ruffled some feathers, obviously. But in the long run, I think this is the way that you have to do it in order to offer better aesthetics like skins, for your leaders or your gameplay, without having to commit to 6 brand new ability sets every time you want to introduce new characters to the game.
I think I remember when I used to follow League of Legends, they were really, really proud of the fact that all of their heroes had all their champions. All their champions had a very unique and defined silhouette. So when you watch the game at any given time, regardless of the skin you had on that character, you looked at the character and you just kind of knew, I know this character by the way they're standing, by the way they're running. And it's good for a viewer, like specifically for a viewer, because I watched more League than I played. I played it, but I watched a lot of it at the time. And it's important. And as a returning viewer, they update their models, but as a returning viewer, I can look and I can see, the way that even if Anivia is wearing like a whatever skin, I know what I'm looking at, and
exactly.
I'm reminded. So for Gwent, I think, for as far as the leader decoupling, I think it feels bad. I think it does feel bad. I think that Flake's fighting game comparison is a very good comparison because there's a visual association with a lot of the stuff that happens. Now in a fighting game, it's a little bit different. You have to react a lot faster. And I think I'm just going to have to get used to it, but it's really hard for me to say that it feels good. I do tend to just put, like, I was building my bug monster deck and I was using my Unseen Elder blood armor skin that I got from the Crimson Crest pre-order, which was kind of the flagship example of, hey, we made this awesome skin, but Elder's not played, so we want you to be able to use it if you bought it and you like it. But I realized I just wanted to play Erica's Queen with my
Yeah,
Erica's Swarm deck.
me too.
And when it comes to like making deck names, like whenever I'm like titling my YouTube stuff, I used to say Bran, Skellige discard, or I just said something like that. But now I have to put more in there for people to understand what it is. Like the deck names are longer. If I'm explaining, like, what are you playing? Well, I'm not playing Foltest Commandos anymore. I'm playing, Inspired Zeal with the Commando package. Like just extra words added. I kind of like the idea of maybe just calling the abilities, like, I wish they would have just called it like Full Test Charm, Henselt's Charm, or something like that. But I think there's probably like 100 different creative takes you could have taken with it. I think that it's just a creative decision. And the last thing I wanted to say, I was trying to remember my last point. The reason why this feels so bad, I think, for a lot of people is, and the reason why Flake said they could have started, if they started like this, it wouldn't be such an issue. But much like everything in Gwent, it started with a base idea from Witcher 3 Gwent. And in Witcher 3 Gwent, we had leader cards. So as we have continued to move forward, things about Gwent have changed to be not so Gwenty. And this is just another one of those changes where leaders have been my supplementary ability to my cards. That's how it's always been. And that's kind of just, in a way, doesn't feel like that anymore. So people have their aesthetic problems with it. They have their mental problems with it. Like, I look at Herald, I expect Herald, and I forget, I'm not playing against Herald. It's just, everybody's going to have their own journey that they have to take with it. But I haven't heard anybody say, this is great. Mostly people are just tolerating it, or just saying, like, okay, I'm okay with it. But no one has said, this is a great change. I feel like
I think that no one said it's great yet because they haven't necessarily seen the potential future benefit of it, because now you can just say between expansions, you can be like, we have a new leader skin if you want, like, it's $5 and here's a great new character with all these animations and blah, 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 plus the card back that comes with her. So that's the benefit that we don't see yet, because you could actually release these little bundles, like these like $5 bundles of a skin, a border, an avatar, like, like a portrait and a card back for $5 without having to do much else. It's like, in November, we're releasing a brand new Nilfgaard leader skin with, or leader avatar with this card back, this blah, 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 blah. It's $5. And Nilfgaard players might get it because it is a microtransaction that's digestible for those who want to make that investment, because $5 for the faction that you main, like, I wouldn't buy a Skellige one. I wouldn't buy a Northern Realms one. I'd buy a monster one. I'd buy a potentially a Nilfgaard one. But this is the future benefit of this disassociation that we haven't seen yet, because we haven't seen what it could potentially bring us. We've seen it with Radovid right now, but Radovid was essentially linked to this bundle that was fairly pricey, so not everyone necessarily got him right away. Whereas in the future, you can get these unique leaders in these kind of, these bundles that are purely aesthetics. That it's just cosmetic.
But you can see what the people want there in the chat, right? They want Dandelion, they want Geralt, they want wrong, another mistake.
Well, that's it. And that's great, because you can get, like, imagine getting here's like remember when we were in closed beta when they had the old school, was it like the old Geralt portrait, and you could only get it from being in like, what is it, the alpha or the closed beta or something like that?
Witcher 1 Geralt,
yeah, there was and that's the thing, and like that, I have it and you don't, and I got it because I was there in a certain time. Well, you could have it where, like, imagine having that particular era of Geralt as your avatar, and it's neutral. Like, you could play it as any type of faction you want, let's say, but you have it, and you have a card back that comes with it. You have the border that comes with it. You have the title underneath your name that comes with it, and this is what we can see. Imagine one of these coming out, let's say, once a month or once every 2 months, as a way to sort of bolster the income for CDPR without having to pry or without having to throw like a $50 or $60 bundle at you every 3 months when a new expansion comes out. Because that is a big ask. That is a huge ask for people who have hordes of gold and scraps already saved up for this kind of stuff. So maybe a $5 bundle with this kind of thing, that's the benefit we'll see down the line.
You are talking about the customization, and you touched upon the topic of closed beta, and I had to bring it up. Combat Engineer and McBeard. How did it come around?
Okay.
I always wanted to hear that story.
Okay, this is a story. Combat engineer is not me. However, thinking I was making a funny joke one day on Reddit, I posted, unless it is me and the artist never told me, but it's not me. I don't think. As much
I think
as it
we should
looks
look
like
at the normal version not
from the
premium.
profile. So here, like, you want to see the profile? Here, hold on. Do you have it on the screen? I know you're looking at it.
Hold
right
on.
now. Well, I'll finish what I'm saying. So there is a put yourself in a card competition, right? And the person who won that competition is actually Witch Hunter. But in a Reddit thread, because the combat engineer looks like me, is it on the screen now?
Yeah, it is.
So hold on. Where's the arm? The arm's like this. So, well, I don't have hair, but it's just.
That's a massive leak. It's something we all wanted to hear one day and see one day.
It's just like, my nose looks like that, I guess, and I do have I kind of look like that a little bit, but it's not me, right? It's not me. But in the Reddit thread, I had posted that I won it and I was combat engineer. Like, no one would ever believe me. They would think it was funny because I kind of look like the combat engineer. But as legend has it, people actually think that this is me in the card. But I really truly don't think that is the case. I was never told that. It was never a tribute to me and stuff like that. So
You're the combat engineer.
The combat engineer. Blowing people's minds right now because I never take my hat off on camera, and I just did. So there you go.
Yeah, to be honest, I was just shocked you
Novigrad
did it.
Exclusive. Yeah. Whoa!
I was like, ooh,
I used
that's...
to be really scared about that. Scared about that.
Leaks.
I mean, we had Busha with some leaks, but this tops them all.
Gwent Slime #1, I cast without a hat on, and I didn't like it, and so I vowed to never do it again. But there you go. That's what I look like.
I mean, it's feature style.
Yeah, I think McBeard and the cap. It just goes together. It's like you always expect it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, from the very first challenger, they're like, they're putting me in like a college shirt and stuff, and Rafaliaki's like, "Do you want to wear the hat?" I'm like, or would I do that? Like, it's like a professional cast. Like, would I do that? He's like, "Hey, if you're comfortable with the hat, like that's what you look like. That's your hat. That's your thing. You wear it if that's what you want to wear." I'm like, I'm gonna wear it then, and I just now I wore a hat for cool. Casting.
Speaking of the challenger, because that's actually the next segment we wanted to talk about, because we spent almost 2 hours talking about the expansion. I thought, okay, it's gonna be a short talk because the expansion has been out for 3 days, so like how long can we possibly talk about the expansion? But yeah, I love the fact that you guys are so invested into these topics, but we really want to talk about the tournaments and how you got to cast them. Because I think a lot of people are curious, like, how did you get in contact with DPR? How did you start casting tournaments? How did it come to be honest?
Well, for me, I was part of the. I feel like I just talked a whole bunch. I'll try to keep the story really quick.
Go for it.
I was part of the. So in January of 2016, they released Nilfgaard as a faction, and they invited 6 content creators to come to the CD Projekt Red Studios to go see it. And it was me, and it was Greyboxer, my co-host at the time for Commander Strong podcast, Merchant, Mogwai, and King Blacktooth, and Chaotic Priest, who is a streamer at the time, who actually didn't stream very much Gwent after that. But we got to see Nilfgaard and stuff, and then at that event, they said, "Hey, we want to do something big. Are any of you interested in casting?" And I said, "Yep." So I had to send in an audition, and then Mogwai and I sent in an audition tape, and they picked us for the thing. And it was surreal when it happened, and the rest is history, I guess.
Flake, your story.
Yeah, what about you?
Well, yeah, mine takes a different trodden path, I guess you can say. I mean, to get to actually get to casting and getting involved with CDPR, I had a lot of experience doing radio and sort of stage related kind of not moderation, but like emceeing things, and I did comedy for a while, and I did radio for a bunch. So this was kind of something that I always loved. And then that's when I got into streaming, and McBeard introduced me to Gwent, and then I just absolutely adored Gwent. So I started playing that a lot. Again, my initial endeavors were to be a competitive player, but eventually I did not have the skill set or the amount of time and dedication that is necessary to be a professional player. So I kind of went towards the entertainment aspect, but at the same time, I still really liked competition. So what I did was a bunch of us put together the Wild Hunt tournaments. And I mean, I hosted things like Gwent Trivia. I hosted a whole bunch of different things like that. I was on McBeard's podcast a few times as well, which was sort of introduced me to that entire universe of being a Gwent-related broadcaster. But the Wild Hunt tournaments themselves were what essentially propelled me to both absolutely adore Gwent from a broadcasting perspective, and B is also what put me into the spotlight for CDPR. And after doing both Wild Hunt tournaments, CDPR contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be the host of Challenger 4. So obviously I was over the moon. I went there and had a great time with them. And with Mogwai moving on, I always thought that casting and hosting are two different things. They might seem very similar of just talking about Gwent, but in reality, they take two different disciplines of how to approach. But I thought I could never be a caster. I didn't think I would be that great at it. I really revered McBeard's skill set as to how he can do that. I thought he was phenomenal, and I thought there's no way I can do what he does. When Mogwai moved on, I spoke to McBee about it privately, and then I actually contacted CDPR and asked them what their audition process was, and they said, put together a tape and send it to us, and we will consider it amongst all the others who have contacted us. So I put a tape together with McBeard and sent it in, and they said, well, we've already have your size for the suit, so we might as well just take you in. So I said, all right.
It's an amazing story because during the Challenger, a lot of people were talking like the dynamics between you two are just amazing, and you cast as if you were like longtime friends and you knew each other in real life, and you prepped together for the tournament. It's actually true. It's actually true.
We've known each other for like what, 6 years now?
Yeah, the first time I ever met McBeard was, and this is a true story, and I'm going to embarrass him slightly, was we went to a Blue Jays game. It was Blue Jays. It was the Blue Jays versus the Colorado Rockies, and we sat in section 512. I remember this because I have a ridiculous memory. But you brought
blood stains on my shirt from the nosebleeds.
Yeah, we were closer to the top of the CN Tower than we were to the bottom of the CN Tower.
Yeah.
But I remember because McBeard's wife and we grew up together. We were basically neighbors since we were 3 years old. So we grew up as almost like brother and sister. Like we were like family, and we still are. She's my best friend, and we grew up together. Either way, when she had met McBee, we would talk about it, and she'd text, I met this guy, and he's great, and he's this, and he's that. And eventually she's like, okay, he's really into baseball, and I'm not, but we want to go to baseball, and I want to introduce you guys. So we're going to go to a baseball game together so you guys can introduce, like you guys can get to know each other. And what's hilarious is that we essentially spent the entire time talking about baseball and Hearthstone the entire time. Oh. And we sat next to each other, and it was just the best time ever. And that's essentially how Hearthstone, Yeah, so that was so when people are like, you have such amazing chemistry. Well, there's literally 5-6 years of actual friendship that has created that foundation that we can sort of, when we're together, when we sit down together. What's funny is that a lot of the stuff that people don't know is that the stupid antics that I do are essentially, they kind of bubble up in my brain 30 seconds before we go live, and I'm like, hey, what if we did this? And McBeard is always a trooper. He's like, yeah, all right, but let's try it this way because it's, and I'm like, yeah, that's better. And then we kind of go that way, and then that's essentially how that works.
So how do you prep together, right? That's, can you tell something about that? How do you guys prep for casting?
Well, we've scrimmed with players before. We'll observe games of like DeMarcus and Molegian helped us prep. All the casters prep for this particular challenger, and they've helped me prep in the past as well. And when it comes to actually being like at the event, once we know the deck lists and what matches we're casting, then we'll have like some bigger conversations about like what matchup is likely, what coin, like what they want to queue on coin. We'll talk to the players as well, what they expect is going to happen, and that really will fuel a lot of the narrative when we talk, because it's really fun. Like, both of us are baseball fans, so we both love that narrative where like, oh, I was talking to the player before the game and he said, or that kind of thing is good for casting.
Yeah.
It's good for the knowledge for the player as well, because it's coming from the point of view of somebody who's in the game that can't speak for themselves. And I just think that you get kind of that feedback as you play if the casters are kind of doing their homework and really kind of researching the matchups, which we do. We sit in a room with almost every player and talk about, we take notes on all of their deck lists. And then it's just focusing on the deck list, and then as it comes down to it, going into day 2, like sometimes it could be 2 deck lists that we didn't cast, depending on where it, or maybe just one. We just kind of got to be really quick with how it's going to go, and we just talk to the players. They're usually a lot faster, and they played all night. We don't necessarily play all night, so they have like fresh takes on it. So I mean, everybody's helping each other. Like the players are obviously trying to win, focused on themselves, but they still make time for us to help us all understand kind of like what we're all looking at.
Yeah, we interrogate them. We gang up on them. We actually literally put them into a room, and there's 6 of us. Actually last time there was like 7 of us, because there's the 4 casters, there was the 2 analysts, and Ash was there as well. So there was 7 of us just crowded into this tiny room, and it's like we have our papers there, and we're all just kind of like, we have them, we're like, so Demorkes, if that's your real name, like, the hell are you thinking doing this? And then he's like, well, because I'm smarter than you, and this is why I did it. And I'm like, fuck, I guess you're right. Like I guess you're right. You are definitely smarter than us. But there's a lot of prep that goes into it, because we want to be not only aware of the deck lists and be able to react to the plays, but we want to get into their mindset and see what their intentions are, so that when we see their lines of play, we know what their motivation is behind it, and we can play to that narrative as well. And like McBeard says, a lot of it is playing to the narrative of what's going on and talking to the people and seeing their motivation prior. And being both sports fans, I mean, I don't know if there are other sports fans who watch things like Sports Center and whatever, but I like the dynamic between McBeard and I, because we kind of have that sort of sports desk kind of thing going on, where it's lighthearted and it's very casual, but it's also very professional and knowledgeable, where we're able to convey the information and give you a good show at the same time. Because if it's boring, then you're not going to want to watch it anyways. I'd rather be able to enhance the experience than to overshadow it or to undersell it. That's the goal. And I think that that's something that I'm very lucky to have a great casting partner with, because it's just, I value professionalism, but I also value being able to sort of not take yourself too seriously, because ultimately entertainment and viewership is what you're trying to, that's your goal, is to make that the best it can be and to please the viewers.
It's a game. We all want to have fun.
Yeah.
And one question that keeps popping up whenever I talk about the tournaments is the future of the competitive scene. With Pavel on the show, he said that they want a lot of the tournaments to move to online kind of format, where there is no studio, there's no casters, there's just tournaments somewhere on the website or YouTube or something like that. How do you guys feel about it? Like the tournaments being played online rather than in their studio or in a separate location?
Well, that's news to us. Breaking news, I guess. How do we feel?
You didn't watch last episode. It shows.
Well, I mean, I wanted to come in fresh. So McBeard, you can sort of take the first crack at this.
I mean, if they want to do online stuff and do league stuff, I think it's great for the scene. If they want to do more events and incentivize playing in seasons more often, I think they need to do anything at all. As far as doing online tournaments, if they're being cast and that involves work for me, and if there's going to be more of them and that involves more frequent work for other people and more opportunities as well, that would be good. However, if it's not going to be casted and they're going to stop doing events. That's a bummer, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why that kind of just sort of blindsided, I guess, both of us.
Well,
because
I mean, I knew that I knew that they want, like, they want to do more. Like, it takes too long to do all these events in person. Like, they want to make sure that things matter more often. They want to do like weekly cups, probably. Like, I imagine that's what they should be doing. And they're not going to cast every single one of those, but they'll still have castable events. It's obviously.
Well, that's it. I mean,
I believe so too.
A tier of competition that they're going to want some broadcasting for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's.
I mean, put it this way:
World Masters.
I mean, how many tournaments are out there that are homegrown kind of homebrew stuff that people do, out of their living rooms or out of their offices, where 5 people get together, and even less than that, and you can have a casted tournament in that way. I've done it a million times. I've done it for various games where I essentially show up at my desk like I am right now, and I can cast tournaments this way through screen share and through different ways. Now, look, how do I feel about the future of the competitive scene? If there isn't a competitive scene, that's a great thing. That's always going to be a great thing. I feel like the one thing that is holding back Gwent in immeasurable ways is the fact that Gwent Open 8 was in March and Gwent Challenger 5 was in September, and that is a very long time span to have competitive Gwent fairly off the books and out of people's minds. And now, obviously, Masters is coming, but that was something that was decided a while ago. Season 2 has to be something that they announce like this month, because people are starting to get a little bit antsy and figuring out and looking for alternatives as to, well, why am I playing Pro Ladder now if it's not going to matter? Because it possibly doesn't. And that's what, other than staying sharp and staying up to date with things, but you got to have a competitive scene. And I know some people say, well, not everybody likes competitive. Yeah, well, some people do. And those are the people who are going to be playing thousands of games in over the course of a season or two in order to attain it. And people like to follow these players as well, because look at Tailbot yesterday streamed, had like 600 or 700 people in his stream, and he's just playing for shits and giggles, because he has nothing to give. But people know these players, and this is the kind of mindset around it, is that even though competitive scene, even though these competitive players might not be playing for something, you're building up their persona, you're building up who they are, and there's a fandom that comes with that, and with that comes viewership, comes player bases, and beyond that. It really sucks to hear that they might have non-casted events, because obviously this is my livelihood, this is what pays my rent and puts food in my fridge. But at the same time, I also understand that you need to be profitable and you need to be sustainable. But so if the way that Gwent succeeds and survives is by having more frequent tournaments, but smaller scale, that may or may not include a casting element to it, I think that's fine, because I'm just one schmuck, okay? And my success is not factored into the success of Gwent. I would rather Gwent succeed and do well than myself individually succeed in a game that might be on the downswing, which I'm not saying it is. I'm merely saying that if one of the two things has to succeed, I'd rather Gwent succeeds than Flake within Gwent succeeds.
Guys, you heard it first. Flake said Gwent is dead.
Oh, that's why I had to say it, because I knew it.
But I have a news for you. Because you said World Masters is coming, except it's not coming anytime soon, because Buja said that they consider doing it at some point during the season 2.
Well, okay, but hold on a second, because that you have to also understand that just means that they could start season 2 very soon.
That optimism, I like it.
That's not just optimism. That's also there's some confident thoughts behind that. All I'm saying is that Masters, there's too much dead air between season, between Masters and now. So if you're not filling that dead air with meaningful Gwent, then you are literally just tossing it in the trash and saying that the next X amount of months don't matter. So it is a good move for them to start accumulating crown points for season 2, wherein you could have your masters and then start with these smaller tournaments almost, a month right after masters wraps up, so that you don't have the same problems that you have prior to this, wherein masters is there and then 4 months later you maybe have a smaller event. So don't discount it yet, because season 2 could very well start well before masters happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you were, but I just debated you into giving us some leaks, and you just did. So
I'm not confirming or I don't have leaks.
Don't know.
We don't know.
I would love to know when anything is starting. Man,
you just told us that we might not have jobs.
You think that people are asking questions in chat? I would love to know the answer to when is World Masters and when does season 2 start. I wish I was sitting on that info. That would be amazing information.
Listen, I will be completely honest with you. And if anybody knows who I am, I speak from the heart and I go off the cuff. I do not know when Masters is. I do not know what season 2, if season 2, or when season 2. I don't know any of those aspects. But all I can say is that if you want the game to succeed in a competitive atmosphere, you need to start making competitive Gwent matter again, like tomorrow. So if you put 2 and 2 together, that seems to be the proper course of action. So if they're saying that Gwent Masters is still a long ways away, you need to fill that dead air with meaningful Gwent, meaning that you probably got to start season 2 well before Masters happens.
You said this is your livelihood, casting tournaments, doing these kind of projects. Is there actually anything you guys are working on right now? Because like you are a pair of very well-known content creators, and people are just wondering, is there any new projects your guys are working on, not only in regards to Gwent but also other games?
For me, well, I'm undergoing this internet issue, so until I have stable internet, I'm trying to just do everything I can. But getting back into regular podcasting has been the past 6 months have been not regular for me. But getting back into regular podcasting for the Commander's Horn podcast is something that I will be doing, and I'm also going to be working with the card game Teppen for a little bit. So just it's a sponsorship that I'm pretty happy with. It's I like Capcom. It's a cool game, and I'm playing a little bit of that as well. Just a little bit is going to be on my stream, but still Gwent all the way, of course. But it's a fun game, and that's kind of like my side game right now, and it's pretty cool. And that's a thing that I'm doing. And otherwise, I am looking for, I'm still doing streaming on YouTube and looking forward to more events and making a highlight reel, I guess, until I hear about season 2.
What about you, Flake?
So I have been very well involved with McBeard, actually, part of their essentially partner program that kind of drives a little bit of the direction of the game in terms of feedback and design and stuff like that. I have a podcast for McBeard as well, so that's something that I'm very passionate about, and that's going very well. Also, the esports scene for that game is something that I'm getting involved in as well. And like you said, like some people like to throw shade at people like myself or others who go and get involved in other games. But frankly, I love card games equally. I love all card games, and I play what I enjoy. Exactly. And so you can come at me and it's not going to hurt me or harm me in any way, shape, or form. Because I love Gwent, I love McBeard, I love Magic, I love cards. That's just how it goes. So I need to be able to pay my rent. And if that means doing other things that I enjoy to pay my rent, then I will absolutely do that. And I'm not saying that I do this for a paycheck, because if you see how I cast, if you see the energy I put into what I do, you could tell that I love it. So I will challenge anybody who thinks that I don't love what I do. And I do. And I'm blessed and lucky to be able to do it. And I hope that I do it until I'm 99 years old and then I retire. But that said, I have a bunch of other things sort of on the go. Part of which is also just, staying in tune with Gwent and the Gwent community, because you guys are, for the most part, awesome. And I never want this game to fail. And I champion it and I root for it. And I stay in touch with the people at CDPR all the time. And they know that. They know that at the drop of a hat, I would get on a plane, fly down to Warsaw, and do whatever they need me to do. Because again, I I just want this game to fucking do so well. I just want it to do so well because I love it so much. And I'm crossing my fingers that it's just upwards and forwards from now on.
Yeah, I think we all have the
Yeah.
same belief and hopes for Gwent.
Yeah, but there's one thing I absolutely have to ask, Flake. Wild Hunt 3.
Okay, I actually have. We came this close to Wild Hunt 3, and we almost came this close to Wild Hunt 3 in spectacular fashion as well. So if you want to know how far I got with Wild Hunt 3, we had a venue, we had a production crew, we had all the expenses, etc. Basically, what we were going to do for Wild Hunt 3 was going to be a North America exclusive tournament that took pro rank placements, North American pro rank placements, and flew the top 8 over X amount of months. Flew the top 8 to Orlando in a mansion with a TV crew for a week and did a tournament kind of getaway. I had it all budgeted. I had it all ready to go. I sent it to CDPR, and CDPR loved it. And CDPR said, "We will see." And that's where it's at right now. So
No way.
I have.
I'm calling Jason right now.
No. What I'm saying is literally, I'm not even kidding you. This is not a knock on CDPR, because I approached them as the schmuck that I am, and I said, North America, you have no footprint in North America. I'd like to change that, and I think that the way to do that is to really inject some fucking juice into the North American competitive scene by making something for North America, because there's European championships in this. And I said, and what they replied with, listen, do some research, come back with some numbers, and we'll definitely talk about it. So I did the research. I came back to them with every single expense, including travel, food, mansions, venue, production costs, labor costs for the people working it, the casters, the production crew, the tournament admins. Everybody gets paid. And I gave them a price tag. I said, I can do it for this amount. And they said, wow, that's really reasonable, but we're going to see. So I sent them like a 2,000 or 3,000 word like proposal, and with everything parsed out and everything done, including the tournament format, the price, everything. And it's kind of in a wait and see. So basically, go buy everything you can from the Gwent store so that Wild Hunt 3 can happen.
Do it.
Basically it.
Just do it
now.
now.
Yeah.
That's an
really
amazing
hope.
story.
really
I thought,
hope.
maybe
Yeah.
there is an idea somewhere in the air. Maybe you considered doing Wild Hunt 3, and now you are telling us the idea, everything is basically planned, and you have all the paperwork, and you're just waiting for the green light from CDPR.
Yeah.
This went down in April and May of this year. This is when I approached them, and this is when basically I approached them in early May, like first week of May. I got the response like a day later from them, and I spent the rest of the month sourcing everything and pricing everything out. And then I approached them at the beginning of June, I believe it was. And that's when I got we have to wait and see. We still have to finish this season of, because basically, if everything went the way I proposed it, we would have been we would have had our first winner of like a spot for the tournament. The whole point was we wanted to have like the tournaments earned through ladder placements and smaller qualifiers, and then we would take the top 8 or the like number 1 pro rank North America from 4 months plus winners from 4 qualifiers. So basically that's how we would pick our 8 people, fly them out to Orlando, mansion, fridge stocked with all kinds of things, and then have a wicked ass Gwent tournament, and then send them all home. The only thing that was different was the prize pool was going to be tiny. It was going to be like $5,000 or $10,000, but I don't think
it's
people give a shit about that. I mean, like, I don't think that was the appeal.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it was a while ago. But it's still there. I mean, it's still something if they want to pick it up. The price tag is pretty much the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this, and basically the whole podcast is something chat has asked quite a few questions about. BJ, what do you have for us?
Actually, there were not that many questions related to casting. No questions at all.
Just throw everything that you have at us.
I mean, there there was maybe a question like about neutral skins, like are they coming to the game, like Dandelion skin, Siri skin, Jennifer skin. Yeah, I don't think that's something we could talk about for a little bit, but I think we've been talking for quite some time, so
Yeah, over 2 hours, and yeah, I see the.
Yeah, I've got to get going as well, my friends.
Yeah.
I would answer some more
Yeah,
questions,
I just see
but,
that people
2
are
hours is my limit,
slowly
I'm
getting in a rush, and 2 hours is like our usual episode. So guys, any closing statements? Anything you wanna briefly talk about, like, in regards to expansion, your casting gig, the future of Gwent? Anything you wanna briefly touch on before we go?
Yeah, for me, I mean, this is like my plugs. Is that what you're saying? Is that what this is, or like
Yeah,
disclosing
this is it.
statements?
Plug time.
Gwent expansion has been fun. I hope we all continue to have fun with it, and the meta evolves in a pleasant way. You can find me streaming Gwent on a fairly regular basis. Hopefully, once my internet I'm starting at 11 a.m. most days. It's been really inconsistent, but hopefully that's going to get back. 11 a.m. most days at twitch.tv/McBearded. You can also find me on YouTube. You can just search up McBeard, or you can do the address youtube.com/c/McBeard. In that case, all my videos are there. Podcast episodes will be getting back. Commander's Horn podcast. Again, the internet thing and a lot of my traveling and Challenger and just a lot of stuff has kind of delayed a lot of the stuff I usually do. But, it's all up there. You can find me on Twitter at McBeardCH. And that's me. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast, my friends.
Yeah,
we are glad to have you here. Flake.
Is it my turn? Okay.
It is your turn.
All right. Shout out time. First of all, awesome people in the chat. Even though some people like to be snarky and sarcastic, it's all good because you're talking, and that's what matters. So thanks to the chat, honestly, for being here as well. And thanks to Trinet for the host. That's really wicked, man. So and thanks to you guys for being wicked ass hosts and for inviting us on. I would wake up at 2 a.m. to do this show. It's no big deal. You guys are awesome possums. I love you guys. So yeah, I mean, you can catch me on Twitch. I'm not streaming much Gwent these days, but you can catch me there if you want to. Twitch.tv/WatchFlake. Twitter as well, @WatchFlake. And YouTube.com/Flake Media, because I didn't think of putting WatchFlake because I'm an idiot. But these things happen, so it's okay. That said, honestly, I just really, really, really am crossing my fingers and really hoping against hope that Season 2 is just takes off and goes nuts. And I really think that with another expansion and another few things down the line, that this game can really reclaim some lost glory. I think that the gameplay is phenomenal. I think that Gwent stands as such a unique game in comparison to everything else that's out there. There are very few games that can really say that they're not like others, and Gwent is definitely one of those. So I really appreciate that out of it. That said, just everybody be kind to one another. Like, just be kind, be nice to one another, man. I see some. Just be nice to each other. Love each other. That's all I gotta say. Be nice,
guys. Thanks so much for being here. I can't stress enough how much I value it. Like, I as I told you, one of my like two of my heroes from when I started playing Gwent first. So having you here is just a massive honor for me personally. So once again, thanks guys for being here, and I appreciate you just waking up at a crazy time to be on this episode. And McBeard is muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. It's our pleasure. And 30 wake up was 6 o'clock wake up was cool. But actually, now they started. Now I'm all fired up, and it's 9 o'clock. And, the day is mine to explore. Let's go.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, and a few words to our viewers. We are gonna host someone, or rate someone in a moment. But before we go, if you want to stay in touch also off stream, just follow us on Twitter @Novigrad Podcast. I just posted the links to all the Twitch accounts of our guests. The next episode is going to be in 2 weeks, as always. We don't have guests yet, but we are working on it. So once again, McBeard, Flake, BJ, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it, guys. And yeah,
you're welcome, man.
Trinet, as always, thank you for the amazing house. Like, I feel like I have to say it because it's just I know that I asked beforehand if you'll be willing to do it, but it's just a lot of support for a beginning podcast like ours. So
By the way,
guys.
Trinet in person is an absolute gem of a human being. He's such a nice dude.
Yeah. So guys,
Can confirm.
yeah. Once again, thanks for everything. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being active in chat. I really appreciate it. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks for dealing with my unstable internet.
Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you guys later.